So this little peperomia has been a much requested plant on 365 Days of Plants, and this one is known as Peperomia Hope. So it is a cultivated variety, and it is a hybrid between Peperomia quadrifolia and Peperomia deppeana. And I actually met the grower who hybridized this in the Netherlands, and it is a really beautiful succulent variety of peperomia. Now this would tell me that it is actually probably one that is suitable for more brighter, higher light conditions, which I had this Peperomia Hope actually growing a little bit closer to my southwest facing window, but it was about, I would say, 2 to 3 feet away, and it was growing on my bookshelf near the window, which now houses most of my Hoya. But now I'm actually growing this closer to my northeast facing window in my kitchen, and it's just kind of like growing and sprawling out. Actually, one of the stems I had cut back. You can't see it here, but I had cut it back because it looked like the roots weren't well rooted, and it was just one of the stems. So I actually ended up cutting that right at the node. So you could see here, this would be a node. So I cut it right behind the node, and I put that in water, and it rooted up really easily. So typically peperomia could root up through stem cuttings and also just leaf cuttings as long as you have a part of the petiole on it. So I've actually never taken a leaf cutting off of this. I'm sure that's one way that you could actually propagate it. And because it's a little bit more of a succulent leaf, it'll probably take to propagation fairly well. However, the stem cutting worked really well too. So if you want to do it that way and you want to be a little bit more generous with your cut, then please do. And I'll show you a little bit more of like kind of the growing tips. And you can see that it has some like longer internodes, but not that much. So even growing it in, a little bit further away from a northeast facing window hasn't had much of an impact with this plant. I'd say that this one was much smaller when I got it, because typically when I see them in the garden center, they're a little bit more closer to the planter pot. So this is probably grown, I would say 6 or 7, maybe even 8 inches since I've been growing this, and I'd say this is probably a good 3.5, maybe even 4 years old. No, I really don't know, but probably within the 3-year range, because yeah, when I started getting Hoyas, I started to move them away. So this is probably a good 3.5 to 4 years old. And I've taken cuttings, like I said, and clippings from this. I actually think I even brought one to maybe my 4th or 5th plant swap in New York City as well. So anyway, this is it's a hardy one to grow. I haven't had any pest pressures whatsoever. If you're fertilizing this, keep it to the growing season. You just give it a really well-balanced fertilizer, like a 10-10-10 or a 1-1-1, and you could do that on a bi-weekly, even on a monthly basis. And because it is a little bit more on the succulent side, you may even like just get a little lazy and just give it a succulent fertilizer and see how well that does. But it has been a very forgiving, non-complaining plant, beautiful hanging basket plant. I can imagine that if you get like 4 or 5 of these and you have this kind of as a hanging basket plant, you could see how it cascades down very nicely there, especially in the close-up. But lovely peperomia to have. Don't overwater it. Give it a little bit more. I have mine in a little barky kind of perlite-y mix. The succulent leaves, the succulent nature of these stems are going to say, hey, I don't want to be watered all that often. And as long as you're not overwatering it, then it's not going to turn to mush.